Welcome, family. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to Authentically Being Ava. I'm Ava. So, family, look, have you ever met a person who has so much to say about people, basically judging? Just judges people and makes assumptions off of 10 seconds of information, and then here they come, like they're a judge on the Supreme Court. Family. Look, I want to talk to you guys about this topic. This video is mainly talking to people who are going through the awakening stages. And I guess it could be for everybody. Really, let's just say for everybody. This is January 2026, and some of us are starting to wake up. There are things that you just start to notice, and you just take a second look at it like, wow, So when you know better, you do better. And that's basically why I'm doing this video. It's because I used to be one of these people. So I saw things from a certain perspective and I judged the hell out of whatever it was, whoever it was, and I'm seeing things differently now. And I'm like, wow, I was wrong there, and so, like I said, when you know better, you do better. So I want to call these things out and I want to discuss them. Just put that thing in your mind if you're like this, right? So I have a friend of mine. I tried to explain to him, you got people in your life and you see things and you've gotten to a point where you're growing a little bit. That's the thing to do, is to talk to them about what you see, not to just really judge them on how they're acting, but just explain to them, hey, I was once there and I did this too, but hey, there's another way, a better way, and let me show. Now it's up to them to accept it or reject it, and so it just depends on where they are in their life. A lot of times people will reject it or resent you a little bit, but you have a few that I'm like, you know what, you got a point, and they go from there. But so anyway, let me get to the story, right? So he was looking at the news. I really wasn't looking at it. And this news story came on, and, it's discussing this person who had killed all these people and, did these horrible things and things that had gone on. They just kind of scratched the surface a little bit about, his background, but they just really never really got into the story as to what happened. They basically, as they normally do, just talked about what that end result was and all these people that were killed. And so, my friend's like, yeah, he going to jail for a long time. He done. You don't do that, and that's not the thing to do. And, just judging him all up and down. It was just a mess, right? So, I said, hey, you know what? I don't know how I feel about that. What happened was horrible, and I don't condone violence or that, killing or anything, so I made that clear. But I was just like, we just don't have all the information. Like, we really don't know what happened. We just got, information from one source, and we just don't have the other side, because, and a lot of times we watched, all of us have watched all these different types of movies, and something could have happened, and in the end, after you finish watching that movie and you get all the information, you find out that person that, did all these things was a victim. So it's not wise to just judge things just off of, 10 seconds of information, because we really, really don't know, how things transpired, what happened, what led to that, so that's all I was trying to say to him, right? Sometimes we have to get all of the information first before we actually make a judgment, so I'm thinking he'd be like, yeah, hey, but he just doubled down on his beliefs and understanding. And I'm just like, I also can look back into my life of things that I've experienced and just know that I was treated unfairly and people have judged me off of nothing. It's like, what in the world is going on here? I come to find out that these people are hating on me because they were jealous or envious or didn't want to see me have a whole bunch of friends, and so they want to spread rumors and lies. Like, people do this kind of stuff. You have to really get all the information, because people will judge you off of a lie in an instant, in a heartbeat. and don't even have all the information. These people judged me, and now you got one person that hated me or disliked me. Now you got 3 or 4 people, that have jumped on board based off of a lie, So it's just like, really? You're that gullible to just jump in there and believe anything somebody tells you, without doing your own research, without using your own brain. And that's kind of what I'm saying here is you have to make your own determination as to what is what, because I was thinking about those folks who just jumped on board on the hate mobile to hate me. Oh, have you corroborated the information that you were given to see if it was even true? They didn't. They couldn't have, because, they would have, heard a different story if they came to me. But of course, they're not going to do that, So like, again, so I was talking to my friend about this, right? And he just was like, I'm just, So his thing was, he wanted to continue on with this story, right? So I'm just like, wow. Like, I thought he would have been like, chilled out about it. So here he comes talking about how he been in a similar situation where somebody pissed him off and made him mad and blah, blah, blah. And, he handle it this way, that's what I did, I was like, okay, well, good for you. I mean, and that was a great way to handle that. But what I was trying to explain to him was everybody isn't at that place in their life like you were at that time, at that moment. You were level-headed enough to make the decisions that you made, and that's a great thing. Basically, what I'm going to say is that of what he's explained to me of his experience growing up and throughout his, younger years, he didn't really experience a whole lot of trauma, and I could see that based off of how he is today. He didn't go through a whole lot. He went through some stuff, but it wasn't major, like some of us out here have been through some traumatic experiences in our childhood and early adulthood, and some of us are still going through it. Some of us are still trying to repair it or fix it or make it right. Not everybody has received therapy or has repaired the issues. A lot of us are just trying to deal with it on our own, which is unfortunate, because if you got some issues going on, you need to go see somebody. Nobody deserves to be struggling through life, just trying to make it, mentally, you got some stuff going on, go see somebody. I mean, that's self-love to me. Going to get help to deal with things, deal with the issues, so you can find the best way to properly handle it and put it to rest, heal it, learn from it, move on, But I was trying to explain this to him, that if there are some people out here who are hard-grown adults and even seniors now who are still dealing with some of these issues from their childhood and from their youth that they never repaired. And you just don't know the horrors that they are dealing with from day to day. And this is real, true, real stuff, And these are some of the things that he never really had to experience, because his life wasn't that bad, his experience of life. So I was trying to explain to him that, whereas, say, at 25 or so, he might have been in a situation and he handled it the way he did from where he was mentally, which was a pretty healthy state. On the other hand, somebody else who had been through some trauma, who didn't get help, who was still trying to work stuff out at that same age and in that same situation, might have handled it in a different way, a way where they were combative or, pulled out a gun or, did something drastic. It's not a matter of he should have did it this way or did it that way. My friend had this type of mindset. I did it, why can't they? So it's just like, I was trying to, show him that aspect of it and to think of it that way. Like, just because you were able to handle it doesn't mean everybody at your age would have been able to handle the same thing. You know, like everybody has a different experience in life. Everybody isn't at the same level mentally, you know, as you were at that age. And he still was like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God. And the fact that he doesn't really understand, even when I explained that, he still didn't get it. I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I told him, I've been through some stuff, okay? I've been through therapy, you know, for it, and pretty much have healed it. But I had to look at what I dealt with. Some crap. Thank God I got help. And thank God I'm on the other side of it. But what I was trying to explain to him was you do some mild stuff. There's some people out here that went through some horrible things. You got to have a compassion for people and to get all the information first, you know, as much as you can anyway, before judging. And so, like I said, there's some people out here that I think, in my experience, this is just from what I've seen. They've been through a little bit of trauma, just a little teeny bit, you know, just mild stuff, nothing serious. I wouldn't even call it trauma. They just had some things that they've had to deal with, which is what we all have, at the least, have experienced. Those are the ones that talk of this mess about, I can do it, why can't they? They've got that mindset, that judging spirit and mindset. I just wish, family, we would open our eyes and expand our brains and minds a little bit more and not be so judgmental, you know, of people. Because, you know, mental health, I always talk about this on my channel, it's really serious out here. Everybody, I think, needs to seek a therapist, you know, to work through or talk through the things that are going on in their life. You know, maybe try to find a better way to handle some of the stuff. If you've got some stuff in your life that it's been like some old luggage that you just been carrying around for years and years, go see a therapist and you know, if you can, you know, try to read some books, you know, on therapy. You can go pick up a book, go to the bookstore, go get on Amazon and, you know, look for books on, you know, healing whatever you might feel that's going on in your life, you know, traumas and stuff. You can get a book. You know, sometimes therapists might, you know, be a little bit more expensive for some folks, but a book, let me tell you, family, I'm just saying. So I just wanted to do this video just to talk about that, just briefly. Just if you're in that situation or feel like you're that person, you know, just try to get some help if you can. And if you think like that, just try to look at things more objectively, you know, from more standpoints than just your own, you know. Because like I said, this friend of mine, I love him dearly, but he just looks at everything from his standpoint, from his small experience in life. And he thinks everybody should handle things like he did, you know, should look at it from his standpoint. I'm like, you can't always do that. You know, that's not always the best way. You know, we all still living this life and growing, hopefully, and learning. So maybe he will expand his mindset just and maybe, you know, think, you know, a little bit more about what I've said to him. Because even though I've had the experiences that I've had, I just have more compassion for people because I know that it can be rough out here. You know, there's not always somebody that you can talk to. And sometimes you make decisions and sometimes it's the bad decision, the wrong decision based off of your experience, which you've been through. And you can't just always judge people off of that. You know, you don't know what they're dealing with or going through. So let's just try to have some compassion for each other, for one another, some love. You know, just pray that people are getting the help that they need, you know, whatever it is, and that they learn from the experiences that they have had and have gained the knowledge from whatever it was, and can from then make better decisions. So that's all I wanted to really say, family. I love you guys. I hope you got a little something from what I've discussed here. If you know somebody who you think might benefit from this, maybe share the video with them. And this is all about love. This is not pointing fingers at folks or whatever, because like I said, I've been through it too. I used to think that way, But it's just like, you know what? Gotta have some compassion for people, you know? So family, love you. Stay strong. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I will see you on the next video, family. Take care. Bye-bye.